Hi, I'm Joe Feeks, editor of Pig Health Today, and with me is Dr. Paul Yeske. He is a veterinarian at the Swine Vet Center in St. Peter, Minnesota. Paul, nice to have you back on Pig Health Today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Now, you gave a presentation about taking advantage of COVID-derived interventions to improve herd health. And you began your presentation with a quote from Winston Churchill, of all people, who said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." How does that relate to the pork industry and COVID-19?
Our thoughts were, is there any way we can help farms come out of this healthier? And that was part of the motivation for some of the farms taking the actions that they did going forward. Was there a way to upgrade their health status? We had to do some depopulations anyway, and could we do something there that might improve the health status long-term for the herd and hopefully for the industry?
And of course, you've done a lot of work with mycoplasma elimination programs. And of course, that also involves full and partial depopulation depending on your program. So you've had a lot of experience with this.
Over the course of the years, we've done a number of different projects. And so absolutely, and it was looking at some different opportunities here as well. And so, some farm, because of some health status, chose to do whole herd depopulation and then put a little bit of a hold on repopulating until they thought it was a better time. Others did the repopulations, others did herd closures. And some farms, we just made some holes and windows in production to help stabilize the herd. And we also did some reflowing, to go to an older weaning age. Others looked at going to batch production just to try and upgrade their health status, and this being a good time to make those conversions.
Are you targeting specific diseases when you're looking at a depopulation program?
I would say specific herds are probably going to target that, but the depopulation certainly can handle a number of diseases or a number of problems at once. And so that's one of the advantages of depopulation, is you can get rid of a number of problems with one action. And you can also deal with, if you want to make a genetic change, if you got a bad purity structure or bad purity distribution, you can handle all those things with the one process. And so that's the one advantage of the depopulation. The disadvantage is it takes a while to come back into production.
When is a herd closure a better option than depopulating?
Yeah, the industry today, the herd closures have been very successful technique for PRRS, mycoplasma, many of the smaller bacterial diseases that we deal with. We've been able to stabilize the herd, and we've been able to make those herds perform well where we have the multiple site production. And that's today in the U.S. industry, that's the majority, where we have a site that's farrow to weaning, and then we move the pigs off site somewhere for wean to finish production. And so in that structure, we're able to deal with a lot of these diseases with managing the herd immunity and getting the herd totally exposed, develop the herd immunity, stop shedding, and then we can bring negative animals back into the herd. And for PRRS, mycoplasma has been very successful. And with our structure of the industry, with the farrow to wean farms, certainly makes us more able to leverage that.
And whether you're talking herd closure or depopulation, I mean, this is a huge investment of resources and time for producers. And it's a difficult decision at any time, but wow, producers were really hurting after this pandemic came along and the plant shut down. I mean, were there special considerations that needed to be made under these circumstances?
I think, yes, it's a hard time to make any decisions, and in a stressful situation, it's always more challenging to make those kind of decisions. You could get the health status restructured on the herd if you did a depopulation or a closure. All those things were going to help you on the backside. And in some systems, it made sense to do the depopulation and purchase some healthy pigs in the interim so you could get the herd back up and running.
Now, you mentioned earlier and also in your presentation about how some producers chose to make a hole in their herds to help stabilize them. What exactly do you mean by that? What does it look like?
The big challenge becomes in the farrowing house. We've always got multiple stages of pigs in most farrowing houses, particularly the weekly systems that they're farrowing new piglets every week. And so what we chose to do here in this time frame was to say, okay, let's empty out the entire farrowing barn like we do on a batch system. And so that helps to break some of those transmission chains, like for influenza, PRRS, some of those, and helps to speed along the process. And so you may be in a herd closure and you're still getting some virus that's shedding back into the farrowing, through the farrowing system. By totally emptying out, that can help you break that cycle and start off or be able to move down the path a little faster. And so that's what some people chose to do here.
Let's talk a little bit about batch farrowing. We've talked about this earlier, and I know it's not for all farms. You've got to have the right size, you've got to have the right flow and facilities. How did this cast a different light on batch farrowing?
I think it gave people an opportunity to make the transition. You know, they put the brakes on production a little bit and made it a little easier to make the transition to go there. They were probably thinking about it anyway, and it helped them to kind of make that jump to go there. And because you were going to be reducing some of the numbers and through the system. And so it did help some people make that transition that they might have waited a little longer to go there, but it was a good opportunity to do it.
And it sounds like they also made some changes in weaning ages. Could you talk to us about that?
Some may have said it's a little easier pig to deal with down in the wean to finish. We're just going to go to a little older wean age, and that's just going to give us a little more time and a little bit more stable pig once they get out into the wean to finish area. And so again, reevaluating the system, saying what's right for my system, and I might not have been achieving what I really intended to before, and does my system fit that number? And then going back and refitting it to where you want to be.
So looking back on this experience, especially for your producers who have gone through the either herd closures or the depopulation process, what are some lessons to be learned here moving forward?
Yeah, I think we saw some positives out of the people that made the holes in production. That was able to help them move along a little faster in their herd stabilizing, and that ended up being a good thing. For the herds that did the closures were still kind of in that process of finishing some of those up. But long term, what we've seen out of the closures is that they'll have a healthier pig on the back end of that. And so that's going to be a positive. And for the depops, you kind of hit the restart button, but you have to make sure you're doing all the biosecurity things too as you come back in when you're on the healthier side too, to just make sure that we don't bring something back into the unit. And so going through and evaluating, you know, the biosecurity procedures and making sure that everything's in place there as well, so that we don't end up back where we were relatively quickly.